Oh, yeah.
Bless and love, my lords. Welcome to another live interview powered by Red Lion. I'm joined here today by our co-host Dudley and our esteemed guest XSULLO. How are you, gentlemen?
Hello,
Doing
hello.
well. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear
Hey.
me?
Yeah, very well, man.
Yeah, we
How
can.
are you?
That song, Butterfly. Oh my God. That
Yeah.
song is not associated with this collection, but it brought me back to 1999. That's for sure. I thought it was like Sugar Ray.
Man,
Then I realized it was
yeah,
Crazy
when
Town.
when it came out and I was watching it on MTV, I thought it was the coolest song ever. I was such a kid back then.
Yeah, and I realized I was 12-year old, so 12-year-old cool is different, when you're adult.
Yeah. Welcome to the show, man, and very nice to meet you. We are excited to have you here. Thank you so much for coming in. Let's start with getting to know you a little bit, and I just checked your about page, and it's amazing. It's We don't usually have an artist to interview and we ask about their filmography. But yeah, why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit about your past?
Yeah, I mean, I'd been doing art since I was a kid. Grew up in the 90s, and I think by the time I was probably like 12 years old, I knew I didn't want to be like an astronaut or a scientist, even though like those things were fascinating. I knew I wanted to be an artist. I think I was pretty lucky to grow up and have like a really good art teacher and just a good community and a lot of support for my community growing up in a small town. And yeah, I just kind of pushed and strived and made sure I take as many art classes as I could in high school and community college, and then ended up going to an art school in San Francisco where I met my wife, and we were both getting our BFAs. I was doing stuff with visual effects and animation. So I had a passion for art and had a fine art background, but I was really interested in digital art. So fast forward, I got a career doing VFX and then working from home, working like remotely from my own home office. I can kind of pick and choose my hours, and which kind of led me to get back into art. It gave me more free time and creative space to start drawing again. And because I kind of took a big pause from that because of college and career building and all that stuff, which is great. And it kind of fed and helped support me to get back into my art side of me. And then my wife and I formed XSULLO in like 2015, just as purely as a passion project, enjoyment of making like art and eventually digital art. Um, and pretty much started off on Instagram and grew the following through there, and then the rest is history. Eventually led into the NFT space in late 2020.
You mentioned you met your wife in college, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so your art projects, it mentions that you are a duo. Are you collaborating on the art that you're creating?
yeah. Usually she kind of, in a way, is like a creative art director. Kind of has sees the bigger picture. I come up with like an idea, and I kind of describe it to her, and then I start to kind of piece together the artwork, and then she kind of comes in and says, "Oh, we should tweak it, move it here. It'll look better compositionally, like overall. Oh, do these kind of colors." And she's been super helpful in that avenue and kind of help build up my following even on Instagram. She was on there. I kind of co running the Instagram page and help kind of grow the. I remember having like 666 followers, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then all of a sudden it blew up from 10,000 followers, and then 20, 30, and then up to 100K. And it was really neat because it opened my world to other artists. I got opportunities to do stuff with XSULLO. So she really helped kind of curate that stuff as well as kind of give me creative direction. So yeah, my hat's off to her. She helped me a lot.
That's great. Kind of like what I do at Red Lion, right, Dudley?
Oh, nice. Right on.
Yeah.
Yes, very similar. So how did you bridge over to you said you mentioned you dropped drawing for a little bit. Is this when you were more absorbed into digital and VFX productions?
Yeah, exactly. Because I think I loved art and making art, but I knew it wasn't going to be as lucrative as like say graphic design. And then I found out about visual effects. So once I got into that, I kind of just stored away all my drawing pads and pencils, and they just started collecting dust. And I just got onto the computer and on the Wacom tablet and digital pen and got into matte painting, which kind of felt it had like technical aspects to it, but matte painting and digital matte painting for film had like a nice in between. It felt like I was being creative, and it felt like I was actually painting, but it was like photorealistic or stylized animations. So it was kind of like that was my bridge from the art world into a more technical visual effects world. But because of that, yeah, I like stopped drawing for probably want to say.
And probably crypto drew you back into drawing.
Crypt, no, actually in 2015, no,
No?
I mean, I heard about like
Mm,
Bitcoin in 2012.
mm.
And I thought,
Very early.
yeah, I remember like someone was doing something where they're going to give Bitcoin away for any college student. So I tried to sign up, but uh, unlucky, I think my school wasn't accredited, so I didn't get any Bitcoin then. But I knew it was very much like the future, and I believed in, and it's almost like going to me like cryptocurrency for me back then. I thought I was like going from you know, how you receive messages like or old ways of receiving mail with horse and pony trailer to like going to like email. It's just so much faster and it tied into technology and hearing how, transactions happen instantaneously rather than at a bank, at a traditional bank. It would, it'll take like it can take up to a week, even like a wire transfer, all this stuff. It just made sense. So I got it, like I understood it back then, but I didn't engage too much into crypto. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And I had no idea it was going to ever tie into like art. And I think it was a good timing because already doing XSULLO stuff in 2015 to 2019, I already was really developing like a style that everyone known me for, and then pushing myself creatively. I think it kind of prepped me to when the NFT boom kind of was bubbling and happening. And kind of answer your question, yeah, it wasn't like crypto that got me into it. It was really like NFT. You realize, oh wow, you can actually, make money off of your digital art rather than just working for a client or trying to sell prints. So it felt like it was like a creative explosion, exciting, and then it being tied to crypto was even like the icing on the cake, cherry on top.
Hmm. Um, yeah, I remember those times, 2015, 2015, 2016. Crypto was super new. NFTs were non-existent. And yeah, there was not much art talk there. There was some Pepes, I guess, and something on Bitcoin, but not much happening. The big explosion, of course, was in 2021.
Mhm.
So quite recently, right? Um, but coming from an environment of video effects and a lot of heavy production, heavy visual production, um, there is a bit of a paradox. I have met a lot of artists that have been working in that space for quite a while. They have created a lot of art, but as artists, they don't have a portfolio to show their personal work. So they are artists without work, basically, without an art portfolio. They have a work portfolio of the projects they worked in, but not a personal one. What do you think about that?
Yeah, actually, I've been thinking a lot about that for the past couple of years because I met some talented folks in the visual effects industry working for like ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, and Digital Domain, and Venice, California, and like Rhythm and Hughes. These are like big. I've worked with these guys. These are like, yeah, the top end studios that would work on, you know, the Marvel franchise and whatnot. And these are like really technical and very enthusiastic artists, but like we would share each other's like work and websites, and I always noticed that they didn't have much personal work. Some do, I mean, especially if you're a concept artist, but if you're doing like visual effects, it's always like work related. And I was definitely like that for quite a while until like 2015, and I think maybe about 2017, I started dividing up my website from VFX and art and combining both those worlds. But like my thought on it is like I think I was a little not disappointed. I don't think that's the right word, but like seeing these people so talented, you kind of you get more curious, and it's like, what I wish they would kind of do more personal work because I feel like they might grow more as an artist. Um, and sometimes those people just don't have the time because you know they might be working on a project for 12 hours a day, you know, 100 hours a week. They don't want to, you
Exactly.
know. I've been there. I've worked long hours like that, and
And how can they work on a personal project after a 12-hour grind? You know, you just want to go off screen, I guess, right?
yeah, you want to go offline exactly. And I totally get it. Like I didn't even play video games. Like I was always kind of a bit of a video game enthusiast, but like even then, I just didn't want to stare at a screen afterwards.
But you have worked in a few video games.
Yeah, like I have worked like not on like the actual video game project, but it was more like promo and trailers and
Hmm.
using like those materials and assets that were used to build the video game and then actually make kind of like yeah, a commercial promo video game trailer. Um
So the hype trailer, right?
Yeah. Yeah, like you know, Blizzard does it all the time, especially with like
Hmm.
Diablo, and it's pretty much yeah.
Yeah, and people get pissed because it's not real gameplay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I feel like it's might be changing. I think the technology is finally catching up to those hype trailers.
Yeah, I guess some gaming fans will never be satisfied.
Yeah.
Um, and how did you find crypto? How did you first get in touch with not crypto but NFTs?
Honestly, it was through Slime Sunday, and he was collaborating with Blau at the time. And first, I saw him and Blau make their own like duo Instagram page and started. I thought it was something with like music and live concerts or some kind of visual creative project. I didn't know anything about NFT, and then I think I think I might have messaged him on Instagram and say, hey, like what's this like Slime Sunday Blau project all about? And he's like, oh man, you got to check it out. It's actually tied in with NFTs. And um, he gave me kind of a basic rundown of that, and he was already on like Nifty Gateway at the time and Super Rare, and he's like, these are like the best places to go for an artist. Because I was like, where do I go? Like, do I go to like Rareable? And he's like, nah, like go on like these places. So he hooked me up with people on Nifty because he knew Griffin, like the twins on their Nifty Gateway, and Tommy and all those people. And then he suggested Super Rare to me, so I actually personally reached out to Super Rare, and I don't think I heard back right away. But then I found out Alicio, which is another artist, and he was like a I think he's like an artist kind of curator. He was one of the early people on Super Rare to bring on artists, and I found out he was tied in with them. So I reached out to Alicio and asked him about it. And he's like, "Oh, here's Zach from Super Rare. Here's his email." So like, "Oh, sweet." So I just copy pasted it and sent Zach a direct message through Gmail, and then he got back to me within the same day, and was like, "All right, yeah, you're going to be on board," and that's in October, late October 2020, when it became like really, really difficult to get on there. So I felt very fortunate to be kind of just early enough and kind of cut through the noise, and yeah, then I'm just kind of watching it blow up.
Right in time.
Yeah, yeah. So I give a lot of credit, yeah, Slime Sunday and having those conversations because it kind of snowballed into getting into it. And then I started seeing Lush Sucks. I don't know if you're familiar with Lush Sucks. It's like a graffiti artist that does a lot of meme type of graffiti. And
I probably have seen, but I'm not. I can't recall right now, but I probably have seen it.
yeah, like I saw him and he was really interested, and he didn't have any foot in, and then I just like suggested to Nifty Gateway Lush Sucks, and then they hooked up. And I think seeing a lot of artists do that where it felt like people were, oh, I recommend this artist, and then all of a sudden they're doing a drop. It felt really like organic, and a lot of the artists on Instagram or banding together and just having fun, making art and dropping NFTs, and yeah, still feels like that, even though it's like ups and downs. It was definitely an exciting time, and I don't think that's the only exciting times. I think I'm pretty excited about the future.
Yeah, for sure. There we are currently on a little bit of a bear market, but
Hmm.
I don't think it's going to last forever.
Exactly.
And it's not the normal state of the market what is happening right now.
Yeah, I did read something about recently where the sale numbers for NFTs in December were pretty equivalent to January of 2021, which was already doing really well. And I think it seems like, yeah, it's in a steady kind of healthy, even though it's down and bare, it's still kind of like chugging along, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of markets that are doing really well. Super Rare, of course, is doing really well. Art Blocks is doing amazing. There is progress in the markets for sure. But yeah, we are in a bit of a slump right now, and it should pass. It's not gonna be here forever. Um, your art has a very distinctive style.
Yeah,
One, it's cyberpunk, like apocalyptic. It's a little bit very atmospheric. Um, Maybe a little bit of vaporwave colors or aesthetic. It's very, very, very unique. How did you develop this style and aesthetic?
I mean, it kind of goes way back when I was a kid, growing up in the 90s and growing up with like Japanese anime culture, because it was finally getting overseas from Japan to like America, a lot of anime, like Ghost in the Shell, Akira, Miyazaki films, and list goes on, Sailor Moon and eventually Pokemon. But I was like a big Ghost in the Shell and Akira and like Dragon Ball Z like fan. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I was just really inspired by the line work and the aesthetics. Even though I loved like Salvador Dali and MC Escher and Van Gogh, like as a kid, as a traditional one, but there's something that was so like fun about like Japanese anime art and just like the culture around that. So I became also obsessed with like skate culture. because like growing up in California, I wasn't like much of a skateboarder because I grew up in the woods, but I loved the artwork with like Toy Machine, a lot of these like skate companies in like the 90s, like Tony Hawk's Birdhouse. The artwork with kind of felt like it's like cartoony, but it was like kind of for adults and kind of like, you know, Beavis and Butthead and that MTV late 90s style, Eon Flux.
Hmm.
That stuff just really like fueled me and made me want to draw even more. And but I was also into like doing like photorealistic graphite and oil paintings. But I was always drawn to like I always did vivid colors too. Um, so the anime had a big role. And I do remember like I wish I still have.
Did you
Mhm.
watch Samurai Champloo?
No, but it sounds so familiar. It's been a
Yeah, it
while.
is an anime series, and it was mixed with hip hop and classic anime samurais, and it was really, really cool. So yeah, it definitely reminds me, your art reminds me a lot that series.
Right.
Even though the style was different, but you mentioned the skateboard and all of that, and I think it's really close.
Yeah, that and I was a little late on it, but Cowboy Bebop too and Fleekly. Um, yeah, I mean that's what I love about it because anime is even inspired by, you know, Western culture, so it kind of feeds into one another. I think like I remember being a kid and it wasn't really like socially acceptable. It's like, oh, you're kind of a nerd, like a dork to be into that stuff. And then nowadays, I think it's everywhere and people love anime. It's only gotten bigger, so it's really neat seeing it kind of grow like that. Yeah, that was a big influence as a kid. And then when I got back into doing art and doing XSULLO, I got really into Mobius. I think his name's Jean Girard. He's a French illustrator. He did stuff with like heavy metal, I think like Heavy Metal magazine. But he has a really distinct style. It's all like pen ink on paper, and it's like feels like it's highly detailed, but detailed enough. And the colors are really rich and like not oversaturated, like kind of like vaporwave, but it's very kind of psychedelic. So I think part of my like color aesthetics was inspired by him, and mixing it with Japanese anime and a bit of the vaporwave stuff was really big when I got onto Instagram. So it kind of accumulated and throw it all in the mixing pot, and then XSULLO style kind of came from that.
It's very beautiful work, man. I'm scrolling while you're talking, and as you're explaining, I'm understanding better and better what you're doing. So yeah, it's amazing work. Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Um, you mentioned psychedelics. What is your relationship with psychedelics, and do they play a part on your process?
I've always had this question, even like as a teenager when I made art. People are like, "Are you like on drugs when you do this shit?" I'm like, "No, I've never done psychedelics, but I growing up in like that culture and like Northern California. I was around a lot of like people that love to trip on like shrooms and LSD, and but I never partaked, and I feel like I was always kind of one of those people that would be like a control freak about it. Would get too like would have a bad trip, so I never like touched it. But I think naturally my artwork does feel a bit pretty trippy. So people ask me that question, but I do smoke cannabis and I've done edibles, and that's pretty much like the extent of anything like psychoactive. Um, but I was interested in DMT at one point, but never
Yeah, I
tried.
was also very, very interested about that. I've never been able to find it, but like I've never looked for it also. I was just curious.
Yeah, yeah. I think they can.
But
I mean,
now I saw some companies selling some kind of mushroom grow kits, and I'm very curious to give it a go. I think I will order a couple of grow kits and grow my own mushrooms. And I've been reading all those recent studies about medical benefits, so maybe I need to medicate myself a little bit and work my issues.
Yeah.
So I will grow my mushrooms for it. That doesn't sound too bad, right?
No, it sounds amazing. I get just it just makes sense where that becomes more prevalent of yeah as like a different alternative medicine because it definitely has helped. I remember hearing stories of like kids that would have seizures and then they'll take I think it's just CBD.
CBD, yeah.
Yeah, like maybe like a
I
tablet
just
form.
ordered it for my doggy.
Yeah, it's great for like muscle relaxation and just easing the mind without like because I like recently I understand I have like a tolerance for weed because if I smoke too much like an entire joint in one sitting I'm I can't even make art I think if I'm that high I might think it's cool at the time it looks really cool and then after the high the next day I'm like oof that work sucks so I don't know
Yeah, the weed in California is strong, man.
yeah yeah it's only getting stronger.
Speaking of like early memories and psychedelics, what is your first memory as an artist? How do you, what is your first time you saw yourself as an artist and said, "This is what I'm going to do"?
Yeah, it had to been in sixth grade, so I was maybe like in elementary school at like 12 years old at the time, and I was fortunate to take like advanced placement art classes. So it was a lot of exploring and stuff. And I did like this drawing of this bald dude, and it was like in graphite pencil on paper, and it was all shaded and like it was smooth, and it looked to me it looked like photoreal, and it was like it looked like one of the masters. You know, like it felt so good to see. Like, wow, I made that. It looks so cool, and it looks like the shading's perfect, and almost the lighting's really good, and the anatomy feels like so like on point. And I remember being like 12 years old, like just really like impressed of like when I focused on something long enough, I can see, you know, the improvement. It's like working out, you know, like you start off slow and then you build up and then you start seeing the actual like physical improvements. So being able to see that on paper and being seeing them like growing as a person, I was like, oh man, like I want to do this the rest of my life because I want to see where it might take me. And then like right after I did that, I did a drawing of my hand. I did an outline of my hand on paper and like colored pencils, and then I did some of the detail of the hand, and then I started doing all these crazy color swirls and kind of really kind of psychedelic. And I thought that was like the coolest thing, just really experimenting, and I just knew I want to do that for the rest of my life. So I was pretty fortunate, yeah, at a
Man,
young age.
that's so cool. I always wondered as a kid, what am I going to become? I thought every person has a specific mission in life. I was so jealous of the people that knew from a young age, oh, I'm gonna be a musician for sure. I'm very good at it. I wasn't good at anything, you know.
Yeah, yeah, I felt very fortunate, you know. 'Cause I know what you mean. I feel like people kind of looked at me and were like, "Oh, you're the
It's nice to find your calling early on, I guess.
yeah, yeah." And I came from like a small school, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're the talented artist. You're gonna be famous one day." People would always say that to me. I'm like, I didn't believe it really, and I didn't really like that wasn't like my focus is like being famous. I was just like, I just wanted to make art, and then I think once you get on social media and you're on Instagram and you're seeing your numbers grow, you're just like, oh man, I want a million followers, aka I want to be famous, and then just fine. I think it can be a good motive, but I think everyone has different motives when making art. And you can kind of see it in their artwork. that makes sense.
You've done a lot of collaborations within your time in crypto on the crypto space. Um, we've seen Dave talk about the importance and influence he gained after you agreed to do some collaboration with him. What can you tell us about that? How was it working with him?
Yeah, I'm assuming Dave probably said the same thing where him and I collaborated just out of pure passion before we got into NFTs. It's probably like in 2018, 2019. We were already following each other. I think he was one of my earliest followers, and then I was always loved photography. So we just started following each other back, and we just somehow got in a conversation, and then um, I think I started seeing a lot of his Tokyo photos, and some of them had like a lot of movement and motion, and then I was like, man, it'd be so badass if I did like a classic my version Akira where there's this chick on like a green like cyberpunk motorbike, driving through like Tokyo. So I just gave him that idea, and he was like, "Yeah, let's like do a complete collab." So it was like mixed between photography with illustration on top. And it was just for fun. It was just kind of to promote each other's Instagram pages and to share kind of followers and grow our following and get our feet wet with like doing like a collaboration that felt so fun and natural and different. So that was like early on. So it kind of made sense where I started seeing him get into the NFT space, and then I was a big advocate of wanting to get him on Super Rare, and eventually got on Super Rare. But prior to that, we're like, we got to do like an NFT together, and get back into collaboration mode. And just as like before, it was just real raw and organic. And this time, rather than me doing like just my illustrations, I did more of my visual effects stuff. Did it more kind of photoreal but stylized cityscape. He did a time lapse of New York City, and then I added in additional buildings to give it a futuristic look, more of a sci-fi feel, like Blade Runner-esque. And then a lot of the billboards were like kind of crypto friendly and real kind of nod to the NFT space with like the Museum of Crypto or Museum of Crypto Art and Bitcoin logos and Ethereum logos everywhere. And then some billboards would have my artwork on it. So yeah, super fun collab, and we did really well, and it was just a big celebration at the time for us. And but yeah, since then I always knew I wanted to do more collaborations, which I was fortunate enough to do a handful of those.
What other names would you like to collaborate with?
Oh, that's a good question. I haven't thought too much of who else at the moment. Sorry, I can't answer that question. Like the ones recently, like working with Fuck Render felt natural because we knew each other way before NFTs. So being part of his Lucidia project and Crystals drops, and then working with Searlight was amazing, and they got everyone at Searlight in Capsule House. And then honestly, I can't think. Oh, I know. I think we talked to recently each other, and we know each other, and we're in these same groups. But Alien Queen, I would love to do I would love to see like a match between Alien Queen and XSULLO.
Oh yeah, your styles
Very
are similar.
So it'd be really cool. Do something like really chaotic and trippy.
Oh wow, with a lot of movement and a lot of fire.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just do a huge like mural,
that's so
like
cool.
a real long or a real huge piece, or just like yeah. I think that would be fun because some of the artists I collaborated with have very different styles. The Searlight was maybe the closest style in Capsule House, so that's why I kind of thought of Alien Queen would be cool. So you never know.
Do you collect any art?
Oh yeah. I was collecting like physical, well, not like more like prints and actually a little bit of physicals, like from like Slime Sunday and Dave Krugman. back then. And then with NFTs, yeah, I started collecting. I have a few super rare pieces, and then some stuff on Nifty Gateway. I have a tabs by Alien Queen and the Degens Rec Guy community. Um, Thank You X. A lot of different artist friends. Too Much Lag. I got some stuff from him. Got some obviously like some Dave Krugman's, his Drive Drop, and one from his Drip Drop. Yeah, Drip Drop. Yeah. So yeah.
Very nice, very nice. I read a tweet recently. I really like that we don't trust artists that don't collect art.
I think it can be
I
nice.
think it's really true. It's very true.
Yeah, I guess it is. Even if you're just like buying the artist's art book, that's like a form of collecting. Because I think I actually,
Mhm.
because are you familiar with the artist Mobius? Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, of course. We also did a cover dedicated to his art.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I found like an art book collab that he did with the director of like The Holy Mountain, and it's like a huge art book, but there's only like 500 of them, and I was actually able to snag one of them. So those are kind of like little
Mhm.
gems, being able to get like a small edition count, even of an art book.
This is how our covers book are going to be in
Yeah.
the future. Dudley, are you listening? He was looking
Yeah.
for Mobius book. This is, and it was 500 editions. Ours is 100.
Nice.
So they will be very rare in the future.
Yeah, I know what
We
the
know
book
it.
he's talking about. Yeah,
Mm.
it's very famous. Sold for.
Yeah.
How expensive it is?
Oh, let me see. I have it right over here. Um, it wasn't. It was like maybe like $50.
Mm.
It's called Angel Claws. It might have been more like 700 editions, but I thought it was 500. It says it somewhere like in the back. But yeah, I was in California in Burbank at a random like bookstore, comic book store even, I think too. It was like a mix. And I just saw it like kind of sitting there, kind of tucked away. And obviously like the side of it I saw some Mobius and it's like Mobius and Jodorowsky. I think I'm saying it right. It's Angel Claws.
Mm. Hidden treasure.
Yeah, it felt like it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Let's talk butterflies.
yeah.
What about them?
What about butter? The song or no?
Is it your favorite animal? How did you come up with a collection about butterflies?
I remember sitting down with my wife actually when we were talking about it. I always wanted to do like a large collection themed around like one thing, and but for it to feel kind of like mixing one of one art with a lot of like a collection. So there's like I thought, what could we do with that? And I think we mulled around some ideas, and then we both kind of riffed and thought like the people that would collect butterflies actually like physically like the butterflies and then they pin them and they have like butterfly collectors. And I just thought, what a cool thing to like do a butterfly collection, kind of a nod to the traditional butterfly collectors, but do it in a digital way. So we made it just kind of blew up from there, and we thought maybe we'll do like 100 butterflies, and it's kind of a mix between 3D and 2D approach. So there's a bit of like a pipeline to it to be able to make it feel cohesive, but also each butterfly is unique, if that makes sense. So I was able to, yeah, like do one piece after another, and it felt real organic. And we thought butterflies, why not? Because with my style and butterflies already being kind of colorful and rich and such a kind of a unique little like creature, and there's so many of them, and just looking at them was really inspiring. So it just made sense to like, why not do, if anything, a butterfly? So I did a few tests and then kind of just ran with it. and started building the collection one by one. Um, I think I'm almost at 80 butterflies. So there's 80 of them all kind of framed in a manner, but each one has different themes or different shapes or different line work or a different mood happening in each one. But they're of a kind of a cohesive collection. So I started playing around with different ideas, and it just feels kind of real on the spot and just kind of fluid and natural and fun. And that's kind of like where I don't want to feel like I'm like forcing myself when I make these. So, um, but yeah, just looking at them.
Yeah, you want to keep it fun, not make it a job, right?
Yeah, because then the artwork starts feeling like way too repetitive, and like the butterflies don't feel maybe as special or unique or um
How many you've made so far?
I pretty much have about close to 80. Um
80.
and it's one of those things where I know I think I have a number in mind. It might be between 100 and 200, but that I like to do overall, but I'm not really sure. And I know, I mean, I definitely want to be dropping this. I know for a fact it's going to be through like manifolds and yeah, just see where the market goes. And like right now with the bear market, I'm not in a rush to drop them or, you know,
And the supply will depend on how many you would like to make, right?
yeah, yeah, it might be one of those things where
I love it.
it could be, yeah, like one of those things where it's like that's how many there are, and I'm not making any more. Or it could be more interesting to, it could be kind of fun to like have it an ongoing thing, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's nice. We
Open-ended.
see all the animals from nature on NFTs and many variations of them, but we don't see many insects. And yeah, butterflies are probably the prettiest of insects,
Yeah.
so it makes sense.
Yeah, I find it kind of a bit of like a therapeutic thing to do. Because the way the butterfly is kind of symmetrical, so it kind of mirrors both sides, the left and right. So making art like that is a lot different than how I usually make my artwork. So it feels kind of
Hmm.
like very cathartic, very therapeutic, and honestly, just feeling like a kid.
Did you have a bug collection as a kid?
No, I didn't. It's kind of odd that, yeah, I didn't, but I should
I
have.
never also.
Yeah,
I never
I
also.
knew people.
What are your plans for the future now, 2023 and 2024, if you're looking that far ahead?
As much as I can say is focusing on these two collections I'm working on is definitely the butterflies and seeing where it goes. And then I'm working also on the tarot cards. I'm doing wanting to do like the whole tarot card deck, but first focusing on the major arcanas, which is 22 of the main cards of this the tarot card deck. So focusing on that, and I also love just doing kind of one of one art. Whether or not I tokenize it on Super Rare right away, it's just doing that kind of art. So I'm a kind of person that doesn't like to put too many things on my plate. If it's like two, three things art wise, I'm pretty satisfied and pretty like full. So I try to keep it minimal, and then I definitely want to do more collabs too, for sure. I think collabs are
How do you balance your time between all of that and your life?
it used to be kind of a bit of a struggle, especially like working from home and you can make your own hours. And it was just so easy to kind of not work around the clock, but yeah, like I felt like a bit of like a workaholic and would just always kind of grind. And I noticed that wasn't really like kind of a healthy work and lifestyle balance. So I think these days I make sure not to overload myself because I used to do that a lot. So yeah, I think that's really helped to know like my threshold because I think if I put too much on my plate, with my art, I think the art will definitely suffer. And for me, even though maybe people don't recognize it, but it feels, it will look kind of like a rush job, and I don't want that in my art as much.
Doesn't make you feel well, right?
Yeah, because I did that even on Instagram. I would like some things I just rushed through and they turned out amazing, but there's a lot of stuff on there that like I wasn't like super like proud of or look back and like it felt more like a sketch rather than like a piece of art. Um, but then there's some that like are real gems that like took maybe just like a couple of days and it was just perfect. Like for me, it felt complete. So it's kind of a
The humanoid form that you are using in a lot of your work, is it something special? Does it have a meaning? Or why are you using this specific one?
like the human anatomy and the shedding of the skin and the bone and the flesh. I was going through like a lot of like mental gymnastics, I guess you would say. I had a huge falling out with my family and my parents because there was a lot of personal matters that they were putting me involved in, and it got to the point where I had to distance myself for my own safety, my own well-being. So I went like complete no contact with them, and it improved my life so much because I knew that there it was just a toxic environment. And this is right when I started forming XSULLO, and a lot of the themes were like shedding of skin, and I guess it's like a snake. It's like kind of trying to be reborn and get rid of like the old and try to like fight for the new. And I was also very angry like at that time. And I think a lot of the early artwork you can see a lot of like pain and anger and like cracks in the bones. Even you see it to this day, but it's more of in a spiritual sense. But back then it was a lot of energy and a lot of anger, but the colors were pretty. And I think that's what drew people into it. They're like, wow, the colors are so pretty, but the imagery is kind of dark. So I like that juxtaposition. So yeah, that's kind of where it really came from. It came from a personal place, and then people really resonated with it, and which I thought was beautiful. So yeah.
Yeah, and some of those artworks are extremely stunning visually. I mean, characters, colors, the humanoids, their ins, their outs, they are great, man. I really dig your style.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Really do. Yeah.
And yeah, and all the structures that you make. Also, Dudley loves to make structures a lot.
Yeah,
Sometimes,
true.
yeah, sometimes we're like, oh,
No
let's make
more
a
buildings,
building.
no more
No more
buildings.
buildings, no more
We're doing
buildings.
another buildings cover. No way.
I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
it.
But it's good balance because Amal is more into like a nature, shapes and like facial things and portraits, and I'm more into heart surfaces kind of thing.
Best of both worlds.
Oh my God, I just saw this image you made with the Jared Leto
Oh
push-up.
God, yeah.
I mean, this got a lot less attention than it should, man. Only 77 likes. Oh my God, this should be 10,000. Let me send it to you, Dudley. That's so cool.
So I think I was on another Twitter Spaces with actually like Alien Queen and Rinko. They do some spaces, and we were talking about like push-ups for some reason, and I said, "Oh yeah, the Jared Leto push-up." And they're like, "What's that?" And I'm like, "Oh, I made this piece," and I made them guess what the image was, and then while we're doing Twitter Spaces, I posted that image up, and it did pretty well on Instagram, but
Did you mint that? Is this
oh,
available somewhere?
they said I should have meant it. Thinking about it.
That's the stuff I might buy.
Well, man, yeah, I think okay, I'm gonna start sharing.
You should make a collection maybe with some ridiculous stuff like that.
So like backstory, I on when I was on Instagram, I started making ridiculous art like that on my public Instagram page, and I started getting flagged and my artwork taken down because of the imagery was too obscene. And I kept going, I kept pushing it. I'm like, ah, screw it, I'll just keep making this art. And I hate that Instagram's censoring me, but it got so bad to the point that I actually got banned on Instagram. I got my whole page like taken down. So I went on red alert mode, and I was able to recover it luckily within like a few days because I knew like someone that knew someone, and then
Yeah.
got it back.
And no more Jared Leto push-ups after that,
Well,
right?
actually, I decided to make a private Instagram page called XSULLO, and then that's where all that artwork. I haven't shared much of
Oh,
that.
well, that has to be minted. Oh my God. We just found a gold mine of inappropriate art.
All right, I think I'm gonna start sharing my XSULLO because that was one of them from it. But people loved it, so might as well. Just run with it. So.
For sure, man. That's really cool. I would love to see it. Um, I don't know, Dudley, if you have any questions before we close up.
Yeah, maybe some lightweighted. What are the games you like to play? As you said, you were a gamer person, same as me, but all same as
Probably
me.
Tony Hawk on
Have no,
PS1.
I think let's. I'm curious.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Probably it shaped you too, yeah, into some kind of taste person. And
Yeah.
what are the games you played?
I mean, I don't know if you guys ever played like the Metal Gear Solid games, like
Sure.
Hideo Kojima. I grew up a lot with that.
Yeah.
And then Final.
We are quite old, so yeah, PS1, PS2 it's crossing my like lifetime. So,
but yeah,
definitely.
The Final Fantasy games, Final Fantasy VII, the whole franchise with them. I mean, GTA like was really big.
You like games with a lot of discs to load, right?
Yeah, long loading, tedious.
Metal Gear and Final Fantasy had a lot of discs.
Yeah,
I
there's like
remember
4 of
that.
them. And you had to like interchange your and you hope you don't like scratch one of them and then completely ruin the game. Recently I just finished actually Death Stranding. It's a Hideo Kojima game with Norman Reedus.
Yeah, I had it, but I never
Delivery
found
game.
Yeah,
I nerd out on that one.
Walking simulators are best.
Walking simulator, yes.
It is the ideal walking game. And then
I don't know, it sounded very amazing the way he described it, that after years there will be a lot of structures and it will be much easier, but I don't know how it works. I never played it, to be honest.
Yeah, I've seen people do some crazy stuff on there. But like with a lot of video games, people will kind of lose interest, and companies have to figure out ways to keep their audience coming back, like Fortnite, and like even I got really into Red Dead Redemption Online, but now like no one's like on there anymore. But I think that's
yeah, that's super detailed. How about VR? Have you tried to create some pieces and
yeah, I think
with a headset?
early on in around early 2021, I had the Oculus Rift or whatever, the one that you like plug it into your computer, and it's kind of like wonky. But I was doing some like messing around with the standard VR programs. I forgot what they're called. It's like painting and VR, and then some of them I was able to import my 3D stuff because a lot of my artwork starts in 3D. So I try and take my models into VR with like it fully colored like in my color, and then like kind of like try to like sculpt on top of them. But I failed miserably, and then kind of gave up. But I think VR art is super fascinating because people can paint like really rich, cool worlds where you can kind of walk through, and it feels kind of immersive. I think there's a definite future for VR, but I think maybe making VR a little more less clunky, you know, maybe like build
Yeah, it's
glass.
still
You
like
definitely need some drill. Yeah, I'm always like watching
mhm.
Joyce walkthrough or his actually time lapses, and it's actually amazing how it's actually skilled now, and it's his second nature to just sculpt with the VR. So
Do you have these?
and Bananakin is also like really great with it.
Nice. I gotta
Mm.
check these guys out. But do you have like the Oculus Quest, like too? Because I just got that and it's pretty convenient. It's like light and it feels
Yeah,
right.
yeah. I mean, we both got it, yeah, right. But it's really hard to just find time to
Yeah.
play with it a bit.
Yeah, I used it a few times.
We
Actually,
can
I
do
bought.
VR meetings, by the way,
Yeah, I,
or
I,
we can play ping pong
Yeah.
or
I
something.
bought Beat Saber is the worst game I've ever played, man.
Oh, come on!
Yeah.
You just need to move, fast, samurai.
Beat Saber is amazing on easy mode. Very easy.
My problem is that you have to cut the cube the way they want, not the way I want, the way they want.
It's actually the
That
game
I could not
mechanics.
get over that fact,
Like, don't tell me what to
and
do.
then I had to pay for every song
Oh, I
just
know.
to
It's the
slash
game
it,
design,
you
man.
The
Maybe you
micro.
you you just play Slice Ninja, or how's it called, where you slice the
So
fruits.
yeah, we had fundamental differences with the game that were not possible to be bridged.
What about I think there's like a VR rock climbing game, which is kind of fun. But
Yeah,
I
Oh,
yeah,
that
climb,
sounds
yeah.
dope.
and then there's oh man, there's like a space horror game where you play this chick in space. I forgot what it was called, but it was on the Oculus, and that made me like so motion sickness. Like, do you guys ever deal with like motion sickness in games with VR?
Mm,
I haven't played that long yet, but
Yeah.
I
I'm
had some
used to
motion
it.
sickness from golf. I was golfing on
Like, I'm
No,
getting
no, I'm
sick.
I'm okay. Yeah,
it.
Yeah.
it's fine. Even it's really fucking up your like brain and your inner like stability center. It's for me, it's fine.
Yeah, it's those space games where you're like floating in space and you move around, you move your head too quick. Um,
Ooh.
I think it has to do with like your ear and your sight or something like that. It's how it's connected. So when you move it around way too fast and you're playing this space game, you literally like I had to like take it off because I felt like I was like gonna puke.
Especially if you are high,
Yeah,
right?
Especially,
that would actually be amazing.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, Exilo. That was a great chat. We are very excited for the butterflies, and we would like to also invite you back to the show when you are dropping the butterflies or some other wonderful project that you are doing throughout the year.
Yeah, I'm really happy. Thank you guys. I really appreciate your time and reaching out and making this happen. Would love to come back. I'll definitely like stay in the loop with you guys and keep you updated with everything, and then start checking out what you guys are doing on your end. And some of you guys, folks, I haven't followed, so I'm not here, so I'm already starting to follow them, and especially yeah, Dudley and stuff. So it was great chatting with you guys one on one like
Yeah,
this.
Dudley is an
thanks, man.
artist. Dudley is
I'm
an
not an
artist.
artist. We had an issue
You are an
today.
artist.
You actually curated my day of tweets, with your daily rant or how
I woke up angry today. It
you
wasn't my fault.
directly offended collectors that they are bitches or something, that they actually don't recognize me as an artist. So I was like,
Why you fucking assholes?
yeah,
It is what it is. Some
that's
mornings
fine.
I wake up and I want to taste blood, So thank you, Exilo, for coming. Thanks everyone for listening live or on your home. Our book is out. Check it out. And on the 9th, the Gazette comes out all with the brand new format, brand new contracts, brand new shoes, everything brand new. Go get it. Thank you very
And
much for
there's the
listening.
last chance to enter the fucking giveaway, by the way.
Yeah, fuck the giveaway now for the recording.
Okay,
So
fuck it.
thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.
Bye now.
Bye bye, guys. Have a great one.
You too.